It all started during a live award ceremony. The cameras were rolling, the audience was cheering, and Diraba Dilmurat stood on stage with her brightest smile, holding the trophy she'd worked her whole career for. But what the cameras didn't show was Yang standing just a few steps away, looking at her like the world had stopped. As she thanked her fans, her voice trembled slightly, maybe from excitement, maybe from something deeper. She didn't notice Yang walking toward her until he leaned in and whispered just 3 words that made her entire expression change. Her smile disappeared. Her hands shook. And before anyone could understand what had happened, Diraba's eyes filled with tears. The audience gasped. The host froze. But Yang didn't move, he just stood there, eyes full of something between pain and regret. Later that night, social media exploded. Why did Diraba cry on stage? What did Yang say to her? Is something going on between them? No one had the answer, except the two of them. A few days later, Diraba cancelled her public appearances. Her team said she was resting, but fans noticed something unusual. She stopped posting, stopped smiling in behind-the-scenes clips, and looked distant. Meanwhile, Yang was spotted alone, leaving a studio late at night. He didn't greet reporters, didn't wave, didn't smile. Just got into his car and drove off. People started connecting the dots. The two had starred in dramas together before, with chemistry so real that fans called them the perfect on-screen couple. But behind the scenes, something had changed. A source close to Diraba revealed that the two hadn't spoken for months before that award night. They'd had a misunderstanding, something about a project, or maybe something personal. Nobody knew the details, but one thing was clear, there was tension. That night, Yang hadn't planned to approach her. He'd tried to stay professional. But when he saw her standing there, smiling like nothing had ever happened, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He walked up to her, leaned close, and whispered something he'd been holding in for a long time. "I'm sorry, for everything." Just 3 words. But for Diraba, those words hit harder than anyone could imagine. Because she had been waiting to hear them for months. You see, before all the rumors, before the silence, before the distance, Diraba and Yang had been inseparable during filming. They shared jokes, late-night rehearsals, and quiet conversations that lasted long after the camera stopped rolling. But fame changes everything. One careless headline, one twisted rumor, and suddenly people were questioning every glance, every smile. Some claimed Yang was seeing someone else. Others said Diraba was tired of hiding her feelings. They both denied everything publicly, but privately, the damage was done. The last time they spoke before that night was during a drama rap party. Diraba had been quiet all evening, barely making eye contact. When Yang tried to talk to her, she said something he never forgot. Sometimes silence says more than apologies ever could. He didn't know what to say. So he said nothing. And that silence grew into distance, until that night. After the award ceremony, Yang tried to reach out again. He sent messages that went unanswered. But one day, an anonymous post appeared on Weibo, a photo of a handwritten letter signed only with a Y. The message read, "To the person I hurt without meaning to, I never stopped caring, I just didn't know how to say it." Fans immediately guessed it was from Yang to Diraba. Neither of them confirmed it, but soon after, Diraba returned online with a single caption under a quiet selfie. "Some goodbyes are just new beginnings in disguise." Weeks later, they were both cast, unexpectedly, in the same brand campaign. Fans couldn't believe it. When behind-the-scenes clips surfaced, people noticed something different. No more tension. No more cold glances. Just calm smiles. But the most touching moment wasn't captured by professional cameras. A fan video, taken from afar, showed Yang adjusting Diraba's coat as she shivered between takes. She smiled, genuinely this time, and said something softly. And for the first time since that award night, Yang laughed. Some people say what he whispered that night was an apology. Others believe it was something more. Maybe it was, "I still care." Or, I never stopped loving you. Whatever it was, it changed everything between them. They didn't go back to being the same, they grew into something quieter, more mature. No more rumors, no more emotional interviews, just two people who had found closure, in their own way. Months later, during an interview, Diraba was asked about forgiveness. She smiled and said, "Sometimes, when people hurt you, it's not because they wanted to. It's because they didn't know how to protect what mattered." The interviewer asked if she was talking about anyone in particular. Diraba simply looked down and said, "If you know, you know." That moment went viral instantly. And fans couldn't help but notice. Just a few minutes after the interview aired, Yang liked the post. In the end, the story wasn't about heartbreak or drama. It was about healing, understanding, and the power of a few honest words whispered at the right time. Because sometimes, all it takes to change everything is one quiet moment on a crowded stage. 3 words no one else can hear. And the courage to mean them. And maybe that's why Diraba broke down that night, not because she was hurt, but because she finally heard the words she'd been waiting for all along. Because even in a world full of cameras, flashing lights, and headlines. But even after that night, things between Diraba and Yang didn't magically become simple. Behind the calm smiles and polite interviews, there was still something unspoken, a quiet understanding that their story wasn't completely over. A few months later, both of them were invited to the same fashion event in Paris. Neither expected to see the other there, but fate clearly had other plans. Diraba arrived first, graceful as ever, dressed in a silver gown that caught the light with every step. Cameras followed her everywhere. She smiled, waved, and answered every question with poise. Yang arrived shortly after, in a black tailored suit that made heads turn instantly. The crowd went wild seeing them both at the same event. After everything that had happened, it almost felt too good to be true. When they met backstage, there was a long, silent moment. No cameras, no flashing lights, just them. Diraba looked at him for the first time in months. "Did you know I'd be here?" she asked quietly. Yang shook his head, a faint smile on his lips. "I didn't. But maybe I was supposed to be." For a second, it felt like time stopped. There was no bitterness, no sadness, just a calm warmth that came from acceptance. They talked for a while, not about the past, but about little things. Work. Travel. How exhausting fame could be. It felt easy, natural, like the walls they'd both built had finally come down. And just before they went their separate ways, Yang looked at her and said softly, "I meant every word I said that night." Diraba didn't need to ask what he meant. She just smiled and said, "I know." After Paris, fans began to notice subtle changes. The tension between them was gone. When they were spotted at the same events, they greeted each other warmly, no forced smiles, no awkward glances. In one behind-the-scenes clip, Yang was seen helping Diraba fix her microphone. She laughed, and the sound of it, that genuine, soft laugh, spread across the internet like wildfire. People commented things like, "They look so peaceful now. This is what growth looks like." But what most people didn't know was that after years of confusion and distance,